Hello again, fight fans. Welcome to episode number 268 of the Neutral Corner Boxing Podcast. I am your host, Michael Montero, for Ring Magazine, ringtv.com, and the Ring Digital YouTube channel, where you are watching me live right now and where you catch me live every Monday at 5 o'clock Eastern Time, 5 o'clock p.m., of course. So again, as I always remind you, make sure that you're subscribed. Make sure you click that notification bell, and you can check out the audio podcast that is released every Tuesday, the following day after the live video, and that is on Montero on Boxing podcast platform. So anywhere podcasts are heard, you can find that. Make sure that you are subscribed to my podcast on whatever podcast platform you listen to. This is TNC 268 for the week of May 29. Guys, we are almost in June. Holy shit, this year is flying by. Summer is here, man. It is hot as hell outside. I don't know what the weather's like where you're living, but here in Atlanta, it is 90 degrees, man. It was 90 yesterday, and I want to say it's like 91, 92 today. So, yeah, summer's here. It's going to be a brutal summer. It's going to be a brutal summer, I can tell already, because last summer was mild. Anyway, you ain't here to talk about weather. You're here to talk about boxing. All right, guys, phone lines are open. I know a lot of you are going to want to talk about the fights this past weekend. So you see the numbers there behind me. For those of you who can't see your screen, it's 213-267-7787 in the United States. Over in the UK, 02081-036-051. Those are both toll-free. You know why? Because I love you guys. I love you guys. All right, man, let's get right into this. We got a bunch of you on the chat already. Awesome. Oh, Jack's on. He just finished work. All right. Hopefully you weren't fired, bro. I had to have a little fun with you last Friday. Man, that was funny, bro. That was a good time, man. Charles Bowie had the chat. Says, "Sup, Mr. Montero? I finally find the show live." All right, cool, man. Glad that you're watching. Damn, Dan the Pub says it's 65 in Jersey. Damn, bro. So that's the thing, man. I grew up in Detroit, and similar weather to at least northern Jersey. And that's the thing, man. The winters are brutal as hell, but the summers are awesome up there, man. One of these days, I need to win the damn lottery so I could get like a summer house, up there somewhere. So in the summer here, I could just go up there, man, because the summers here are brutal. Ray Valero says, "Let's go." All right. Dorian Fox says, "Mike, what do you think about B-Hop telling Andre to be a serial stalker to Canelo, and your thoughts on Pacquiao Spence?" We'll talk about Pacquiao Spence in just a second. Andre has kind of been a serial stalker with Canelo, and it's not working. So I don't know what B-Hop is talking about. Carlos says, "Hey, what's going on, Mike? Hope you're doing well, Carlos. You and yours out there in Cali." And Mandeli Cali says, "Nothing like Cali weather." Hell yeah, bro, except for about 2 months a year where it's like $120. I remember, what was it, like August, September, it'd be like $120, and people would be like, "But Mike, it's a dry heat." I'd be like, man, fuck you. 120 is 120. It's the same thing in Vegas. It's a dry heat. I don't give a shit. I'm breathing and my lungs hurt from the hot air that I'm breathing. Not cool. All right, let's jump right into this news real quick, guys. So I'm not going to go over the heavyweight division thing 100% again. I just want to hit it for those of you who weren't on last week, because we talked about it all during last week's show. But Fury Joshua, not happening, at least not in 2021. And I'm starting to wonder, was it ever really a thing? Were we all taken for a ride by the parties involved, mainly Top Rank and Tyson Fury? Did they know something that we didn't? So the arbitrator sided with Deontay Wilder, as you've all heard now, and it looks like it's all systems go for Fury and Wilder 3, a fight that very few people want, but we are going to get it. Once again, a few of you guys have asked me, is it pay-per-view? And the details, yes, it'll be pay-per-view, and yes, it'll be another ESPN/Fox conjoined pay-per-view. So that's a thing, right? This is all starting to feel very scripted to me. I don't know. I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I don't get into that shit. But it's starting to feel kind of scripted. I'm starting to wonder if this was all just a big play and we were all just pawns on a chessboard here. And Wilder's going to win this third fight. And we're going to kind of go back to where we were in the heavyweight division about 3 years ago, where it's Wilder and AJ, And Wilder keeps turning down offers to fight AJ, and we're just at this stalemate when we were this close to sewing this whole thing up. I hope I'm wrong, though, but I don't know. I mean, Fury should beat Wilder, right? That's what we all think. He's the better fighter. Yeah, I get it, but this is all just starting to feel a little too, I don't know, man, just planned and scripted to me. But I'm just going to leave that where it is. All right, so Pacquiao versus Spence. That is a thing that is official, and that broke Friday, right when I went live on my channel. And that is going to be Fox PPV August 21st. So that is the done deal. And, look, is it the fight that we want? No, we want Spence and Crawford. That's the fight that we want. But we knew eventually when Pacquiao signed with PBC, and I think that was like 3 years ago, I remember telling all you guys that they signed Pacquiao to build up their welterweights name off of. They're going to build up those guys' names off of Pacquiao. Pacquiao kind of screwed up the party, though, when you started beating all of them. And they didn't want Pacquiao to beat Thurman. But that fight happened when it happened because Thurman was half checked out and everything else. And Pat goes on to beat Brawner, get Brawner paid again. That got Pacquiao paid. And then the thing with Thurman, had Thurman won that fight, we'd be getting Spence and Thurman right now. I think the promotion would have maybe preferred that. But as it stands, we're getting Pacquiao-Spence. Now, some people are calling this a super fight. I don't agree with that. Pacquiao is still a massive brand in the sport, don't get me wrong. But I wouldn't call this a super fight. I think people exaggerate those sorts of terms like pay-per-view fighter, world champion. There's 8 billion world champions right now. As I always say, there's a difference between holding a title, it being a unified title holder, and being a champion of a division. Those are very different things. But this is what I call a super fight, but it's a pretty good consolation prize. But on paper, Spence is supposed to not only win this fight, but win it in style, win it big. This is supposed to be a brand building exercise for Spence. That's what the fight against Garcia was. That's what the fights against Porter and the other Garcia, all those were brand building exercises, working with different demographics to build up Spence's name, right? He's the guy over there at PBC. And this is the final step for them. So after he should beat Pacquiao, if he does, there's really nobody left for him to fight but Crawford. So if this is what we got to go through to get Spence and Crawford early next year, in my opinion, that fight will still be past its due date, but I'll take it. If we end up getting Spence and Crawford either late this year or early next year, that'd be great. I guess I'm being cynical. I've completely given up on that fight. I just don't think it happens. If Spence wins, I don't know who else there is to fight because the guy at 140, who we'll talk about in a little bit later in the show, the undisputed champion at 140, who I think has surpassed both Spence and Crawford on the pound-for-pound list based on what he's done in the sport lately. We'll talk about that later. He's not going to move up and fight Spence because, the politics of boxing are going to prevent that. If he moves up and fights anybody, it's going to be Crawford. So I've completely given up on Crawford-Spence happening. What would be interesting here is if Pacquiao wins. And I don't think he will. I'm not saying it's outside the realm of possibility. I just don't think he will. But if Pacquiao did win, the conversation that we are having about Pacquiao as it relates to his all-time great rating and all that kind of stuff, that changes, man. That changes instantly. I always thought Thurman was a tad overrated, but he was undefeated and at one point a unified title holder and the number one guy in the welterweight division after Floyd left. Briefly, he was the number one guy. Now, did Pac fight him at his absolute best? I don't think so. I think Thurman had been inactive. There had been injuries. He was married, those sorts of things. Half retired mentally and emotionally, but I still give Pac a ton of credit. If he beats Thurman and then goes on to beat Spence after that, we're talking about him in a completely different light. Now, I don't want to go too far down this rabbit hole yet because I still don't see that happening. I think that Spence is going to win this fight. But if it does, we're going to be having a lot of conversations about Pacquiao, probably top 10, maybe top 5 all time in this sport. it puts him in a different place just because of the longevity and everything else and the span of weight classes and all of that. The only thing I want to know about this fight is, I hope that we get full VADA testing. I saw a back and forth on Twitter. I retweeted the thread between Sean Gibbons, who represents Pacquiao, and Victor Conti, who runs that snack gym up there in the Bay Area in California, of Balco fame back in the day. Those two were going back and forth on Twitter about drug testing in relation to this fight. I just hope that we get drug testing. As far as I know, I reached out to people at VADA. They have not been contacted yet in regards to this fight. So I hope that changes and we get full drug testing. So everything we know for sure is on the up and up. So no matter what happens, we know that it was the right thing. And all in all, I like the fight. But would I call it a super fight? Nah. There are very few super fights in the sport right now. And I wouldn't say that's one of them. But pretty damn good fight. All right, so that's it, news and notes wise. So we can move on here. But I'm going to take a quick call. We got somebody on the line. So let's jump over to the phones. All right, 317, you're on the show.
317, who do you think this is?
I think it's Jack.
Yeah, what's up?
What's up, man? I thought so. I know your area code starts with a 3, but I didn't know the whole area code. Yeah. What's up, brother?
Yeah, I got fired from my job. I'm just kidding. No, I didn't. I didn't even notice. Everyone's pretty chill. Yeah, everyone was pretty chill. Like, just helping the customers. Like, this lady was laughing when I was laughing. She was laughing to me, laughing to you. She thought I was laughing at, like, something I was helping her with. I kind of seemed like a psychopath, just, like, laughing.
Well, because you had the earpiece, right?
Ear pod.
Oh, yeah, okay. All right.
Yeah, but she didn't see it. She didn't see it because I was on the other side of her.
So she thinks you have Tourette's or some shit. Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah. You know the funny thing? I did see a guy with Tourette's. Like at I was just like at lunch. I got Subway again. I mean, it's the closest thing to me. So
you and your Subway,
bro. I saw
bro.
a guy with Tourette's. I saw a guy with Tourette's. I actually had Tourette's today. And at first, I thought it was funny. And then I felt really bad about it. Like, I felt like shit.
That sucks.
I was like, I'm an asshole. I'm really a piece of it. Because the guy was like, And I was like, I'm really an asshole. Because I was like laughing about it at first.
I saw a midget this weekend and I laughed. And I felt really, really bad, But it's not like I laughed at him. But when he waddled past, I turned to my wife and laughed my ass. I can't help it. It was funny, Someone's going to take that little clip off this episode and tweet it to the BWAA. Watch. But, I couldn't help it. Sometimes shit is funny. Anyway, what's up, Jack? What you got for the show, man? And so, Boxing and Bulldogs in the chat says, Boxing and Bulldogs in the chat says, get to the point, Jack.
Oh, shit, my bad. But yeah, Montero. Imagine like a little midget just flipped you out. He's like, fuck you, Montero.
Yeah. He probably did. You know what I'm saying? I can't help it. It's funny. It's just, little people are funny.
Shit.
Anyway, all right. What's up, man? What's up?
Right, yeah. So I just wanted to talk about like what happened over the weekend. And man, Spence and Pacquiao, I was telling people, I already think like Pacquiao is all-time higher than Floyd. And so I think I told you I was right about the Josh Taylor fight prediction. I was like, I don't think it'll be that close. It was close on the card, but I told you it was going to be, I thought it was going to be like a round 8 stoppage or so. And man, if Kenny Bayless didn't fuck up the refereeing and he probably would have stopped him in round 7.
Yeah, I'm going to get into that in the fight review. Kenny Bayless made several blunders throughout that fight that affected both fighters. People are only talking about, one side of it, depending on what side of the, what fighter they're polling for. But dude, he's like over 70. He's a wonderful person. He's a super nice guy. The Bayless brothers are awesome people, but it's time to walk away, bro. It's time for them to hang him up.
Yeah, that was just bad. But one thing I can say, am I the only one that gets a little like really satisfying feeling when I see a fighter, like a young upcoming fighter, get like impressive names on their resume? You know what I'm talking about? Like you like the feeling of just like, oh shit, this guy's getting a really nice resume. He's gonna have a really nice career. You just get that good feeling, like.
Yeah. I totally agree. I mean, it's so rare now, it's so rare that when you see it, it's pretty damn awesome. And there's very few fighters in the sport that are doing what Taylor just did, what Jermell Charlo is going to do soon, what Teofimo Lopez did last year. So when you start seeing guys do these things, it makes you just like, for me, I'm like, I don't care about Crawford and Spence right now. I don't care about them. I want to see these new guys. I want to see Jaron Boots Ennis. I want to see Virgil Ortiz, those kinds of guys come up. But yeah, I'm with you, Jack. I'm with you.
Yeah, I accidentally couldn't hear that last part. I didn't think you could hear me, so I had to adjust. But just like, I can go back in the video and look at it. But you know what I mean, though?
Yeah.
Like, you get a good feeling when you see these impressive. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
But damn, yeah, he looks impressive. Definitely, I think you have to put him top 7 at least.
Okay.
I would say top 5, but I know you're going to get into it later, but the fact that he's undisputed and he has all these like A-level names, well, I wouldn't call Victor Postol A, but I call him like D maybe. But Jose Ramirez, like D+, but Regis Prograis are a really nice name for the resume. So it's hard not to put him in your top 10. You have to, I feel. You have to put him in your top 10.
Yeah. Yeah, that's going to be the debate now, is where do you place him? And I think that if fighters like Crawford and Usyk were busy and had a fight already this year or something. Now, in the case of Usyk, he really can't help his situation. He's waiting for that mandatory. But with Crawford, I've defended Crawford a lot. He's been my pound for pound number 1 guy for a while, but I can't defend him anymore, man. He doesn't even have a fight scheduled. At some point, I still think he might be the best fighter in the world. But if you ain't fighting, I think you got to put Taylor above him right now. I just do. And if Charlo beats Castaño, which I think he will, he's up on that list. You cannot deny him anymore. Teofimo Lopez obviously is on the list. So these young guys that are taking challenges and cleaning out divisions, you got to give them credit, man. And I think Taylor definitely is up there, bro. So I'll definitely talk about that in a few.
Yeah, I definitely don't want to because it's the beginning of the show. I just call in because I just finished work and I'm just on my phone, so I don't have I can either call in or like watch. So that's why I'm calling in, so I can listen to your if you didn't take it for like 30 minutes, that would have been fine. But
well, dude, here I'll call back in. I'll let you go so I can get back to it. But call back in and just listen, man. That's all good.
Wait, Mike. I wanted to ask one more thing.
Okay.
Because last time I really couldn't get into it. Triple G Andre, what do you think holding that up?
Honestly, dude, Triple G. I don't know what. Listen, man. There's another guy. I don't know what's up with Triple G. I can't defend him anymore. It's the same thing with Terrence Crawford. I know that Triple G wants to fight Murata at the end of the year. That's fine. That's a decent fight. I think that's a solid fight. It's not a great fight, but it's solid. And they were talking about doing a tune-up like in August or September or something. But Andre, that name is not on his radar. So I'd love to see Triple G fight either Andre or Charlo. I'd rather see Charlo and Andre fight each other. But I don't know what's up with Triple G, man. And he's a guy that I've kept up with for years. I know people connected to him in his camp. I've spent a lot of time with him. And he's at a point now where it's kind of hard to defend him, dude. I understand why he's kind of doing things his way, because he got, he did things everyone else's way for so long. I get that. And that's fine. That's his prerogative. But I can't rate the dude if he's not fighting. I can't rate him. You know what I'm saying?
And most is
yeah, you're breaking up, bro. You're breaking up.
Oh, am I breaking up? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Oh, I said it sucks because I feel like it would be such an easy Triple G. Would you disagree? I mean, Andre does not impress me at all.
Yeah, Andre, it's hard to tell with Andre. I don't know if he's fighting down to the level of his opposition, and maybe he's going to show us another level when he does step up and fight an elite level fighter. We won't know until that happens. We know at Triple G because he's fought elite level fighters. We know he's got that kind of substance. We don't know with Andrade. If we're just going off of what we've seen so far, yeah, I'd pick Triple G to beat Andrade. But maybe Andrade has another level that we just haven't seen yet. We won't know until he steps up and fights a top guy. So if I'm Andrade, I'm calling out Charlo. That's who I'd call out because I think Charlo is an easier win for him than Triple G. And if he beats Charlo and is the unified title holder, then he's got a bargaining chip with Triple G and could go to him and be like, hey, man, you want all the belts again? You got to fight me. But at this point, all these guys, it seems like they're trying to just hold out for the Canelo sweepstakes. That shit's annoying, man. It's really annoying. Whether it's Caleb Plant or Charlo, Andre, any of these guys, they should all be fighting each other. But, Jack, I got to let you go, man, so I could get into the fight review, and I got some rants to go on. So just call back in and listen, bro.
Hell yeah, bro. All right.
All right, man. Boxing and Bulldogs says Jack is calling from an underwater location. That's great. Yeah, the phone started to break up a bit there, Jack. I don't know where you're driving, bro, but it got a little difficult to hear you. All right. I want to hit a couple of comments I saw here in the chat. Let's see. Tareen Fox says, ask your Triple G question and go, Jack. Damn, he called that. Sam A asked, was Elvis a little overrated? Yeah, but also Kenneth Sims was a little underrated. So we'll get into that in just a minute here. Unrivaled Zon, he says, what's the news with Josh Taylor's pound-for-pound status? I'm going to get into that in just a minute. I promise, my man. I promise. Let's see. Torian Fox says, Triple G looking for that Japanese money. Yes and no. Look, man, Murata is definitely a top 10 middleweight, maybe a top 5 middleweight. He's not trash. So at this point, if you're Triple G and you want to take that fight, I get it. And it's kind of, I look at Triple G right now the way Miguel Cotto was the last few years of his career. I respect the hell out of Miguel Cotto because of all the dudes he fought at 140 and then especially at 147, 154. He went up to 60 and challenged himself against Martinez. That's something like Floyd wasn't going to do, right? And it worked out for him. And then at a certain point, he said, hey, man, now I'm doing shit on my terms. I've been doing things everyone else's way. He started promoting himself. And in Triple G, I think, is just kind of in that phase. And I get it. The difference is I can't rate you on no pound-for-pound list right now. I can't call you the best middleweight in the world right now if you ain't fighting. Now, I can't call Charlo the best middleweight in the world because he ain't fighting nobody. Same thing with Andre. The way I look at middleweight right now is it's wide open. It's just a wide open mess. And it's somebody has to step up and take that number one spot. But I can't rate Triple G number one. I'm not saying he's not number one, but I can't rate him number one unless he gets in the damn ring and fights. And that ain't happening right now. All right, let's see. What else we got? All right, let's get into this review, man. We got a lot to review. Okay. Let's see. Last Saturday, May 22nd, a couple notes. Sam Eggington won a unanimous decision over Carlos Molina in the UK. And my man Levante Early improved to 14-0 with a TKO2 win in Greenville, South Carolina. Me and my wife, Tiffany, went up there. Levante Early is one of a couple of the minor regional titles, and one of them is the NBA. And the NBA president, Damon Gonzalez, was there. And I know Damon. I've known him for a minute. He's a good dude. So we were shooting the shit, talking, and it was fun covering that event. So that was a lot of fun. And I think Levante, look for my piece on ringtv.com, my recap there, where, he was just expressing frustration. He's a guy looking for a challenge and looking to step up, and it's been hard for him to find opponents. But the big card last weekend, of course, was the Top Rank on ESPN show from the Virgin Hotels in Las Vegas. And before I get to the main event, real quick, undercard talk. Jose Zepeda with the unanimous decision win over Hank Lundy. Didn't really surprise anybody. Hank Lundy went rounds. That's what he does. He's an experienced, good fighter. And these were good, solid 10 rounds for Zepeda, who now at 140 is right there ready to challenge for the completely. So the division's completely unified. But if Taylor moves up, all those titles go vacant, and Zepeda's going to be right in line for a vacant title shot. So he's set up very well right now. But also on this undercard, man, 27-year-old from Chicago, Kenneth Sims Jr. I will admit, I totally just flew under my radar. I knew of him, but he's lost a couple fights. He's had a couple of close calls, and I guess overrated Rodriguez, underrated Sims. I also didn't really look at the styles of this fight, and so Sims wins a majority decision win over Elvis Rodriguez, who took his first L as a pro. Should have been a unanimous decision, but Judge Chris Migliore scored it at 76-76. That's a bad scorecard. This was a solid win, a decisive, I won't say decisive, but a clear win for Sims. He clearly beat Rodriguez. So does this mean Rodriguez is a bust? No. It just means that he stepped up in opposition a little bit. He fought a guy who he couldn't blast out of there, and he's shown some boxing ability in the past, but there's definitely some holes in his game, and Sims exposed those. In style-wise, Top Rank, who usually does a wonderful job building prospects, they didn't do their homework on this one. They're matchmakers. Or they did their homework. They saw what Sims was going to give them, and they thought Elvis had enough to be challenged but overcome it. And he just fell a little short. So he goes back to the drawing board, but I think he'll get better. But for Sims, good for him, man. Good for him for taking a chance, getting in there against the guy, knowing he's the opponent, giving it his all, gets the W. And now whether he gets a rematch with Rodriguez next or some other opportunity, he's definitely improved his life and his career off this W. I just love stories like this. It's hard not to feel good for Sims and his team and his family after something like this. When you see the little guy, quote unquote, overcome the big guy, and it changes his life. Overnight, his life is different. The life of his family is different. That's what's so cool about boxing. You just don't get that in other sports the same way that you do in boxing. But let's talk about this main event. Josh Taylor improves to 18-0 with 13 knockouts with a unanimous decision win over Jose Carlos Ramirez, who drops to 26-1, his first loss as a pro. This was a complete junior welterweight unification. And now the talk is, where do you rate Josh Taylor on the pound-for-pound list? That's one talk. And then the talk is, who is the best young fighter in the sport? Is it Teofimo Lopez or Josh Taylor? So those are the two questions I've seen going around on boxing social media. The judges scored this. All three of them scored it. 114, 112, 3 times, which with the 2 knockdowns means all 3 judges had this a draw, which means the house fighter, as we talked about on Friday, I know Mark from Unrivaled called in, a bunch of you guys called in, and we discussed this. And the feeling, the gut feel, remember that just little gut feel I had, the pit of my stomach? I don't know, man, Ramirez, something there. And a bunch of you guys shared the same opinion. And I ended up going with Taylor by split decision. So my gut feel wasn't very off about this fight. Neither was a lot of you guys. I mean, we're kind of feeling the same thing where the promotion, the network, the judges, the same 3 judges from Ramirez's last fight, this is looking kind of cooked up and put on a silver platter for Ramirez. Despite all of that, Taylor found a way to win, and he dropped Ramirez twice. There was some controversy about that, which I'll talk about in a second. But for all 3 judges equally to have this a draw, it's very reminiscent to me about the Kovalev-Ward fight, where all 3 judges had the exact same score in a close competitive fight with a knockdown. This was a close competitive fight with 2 knockdowns, and all 3 judges who were familiar with one fighter and completely unfamiliar with the other fighter scored it the exact same. That just always looks a little odd to me. And it just so happens that they scored it a draw in terms of rounds. So anyway, Taylor did enough to get by here. I thought 115 to, in terms of rounds, 7-5, 115, 111 was the right score. I thought that Taylor won. Also, Taylor coasted in the championship rounds of this fight. I mean, going into like the 9th, 10th round, this was pretty much a 6 rounds to 3, 7 rounds to 3 kind of a fight. And then he gave up the last 2-3 rounds, right? So Taylor kind of went into cruise control late. I didn't agree with that decision. And I don't know if that's something that he felt he should do because the fight was in the bag and he just wanted to play it safe, or if he was preserving energy. We have seen Taylor wear down a little bit later in fights. Okay. And that's something maybe he can work on. Maybe it's just making 140 pounds. And once he moves to 147, that will improve and he'll have a little more gas in those late rounds. But I felt like in several fights, was it the Baranchik fight, the Prograis fight? There's been a couple of them even before this one. In the later rounds, shit got a little closer. Things got a little, little crazy. And it didn't have to be that way. You kind of felt like he could have pulled away at one point in this fight, and he kind of let Ramirez win the last couple rounds, and that's what made this fight so close on the cards. Going into the championship rounds, everyone knew Taylor was winning. And then the way he finished the fight, that's why it felt closer at the end. So that's something to keep an eye on. Okay, that's something to keep an eye on with Taylor, because I do wonder if he moves up to 47, he doesn't have to kill himself as much to make weight. Will that stamina improve? Will he have a little more juice in those late rounds? So there's some people out there that said this fight was 9-3. This was a domination. Stop. It wasn't. Okay, it was a close fight. I think 7-5 in terms of rounds is a fair score. 115, 111 is where I had it. Some of you guys, your scores were too wide. What's next? For Josh Taylor, it's going to be Jack Catterall, who's 26-0, 27-year-old southpaw. That is his mandatory for, I think it's the WBO, but don't quote me. I can't keep up with all these damn sanctioning bodies, who accepted step-aside money to make this fight happen. Imagine Jack Catterall having the wherewithal to see the future and say, I could challenge Taylor right now for these 2 titles and less money, or I could take money to sit on my ass and do nothing, let the division get unified, and then fight the winner for all the titles and more money. And it's what's best for boxing, and I'll be a good guy in the eyes of fans. What should I do? And he made the right call. Imagine that. So now Jack Catterall is going to end up fighting for all the belts, probably later this year, probably over in the UK. Interesting. He's going to make more money doing this. Obviously, I favor Taylor big in that fight, but that fight is basically what Teofimo Lopez and George Kambosos is for him, right? That's Taylor and Catterall. It's the same version, just a different side of the pond. All right, let's talk about Kenny Bayless, man, before I get back into Taylor and some of the debates about pound for pound stuff. Look, Kenny Bayless. You know what? Let me share my screen and show you guys a couple of videos, because for those of you who didn't see it, I just want to show you guys. I found some of these videos on Twitter, and let's see. Here we go. All right. Can you guys see this? Yes, you can. All right. I want to pause it because, so this is the knockdown in the 7th, right? Okay, right there. I want to pause it. Boom. Okay. I'm going to back up a little bit. Right now, these guys are in a bit of a clinch. They're not completely hugged up. And for those of you listening to audio later on, I apologize. I am showing a sequence in the 7th round where Taylor drops Ramirez, okay? It's late in the 7th round. There's 35 seconds left. They get into a partial clinch, but they're not 100% clinched. They're just kind of hugged up on each other. And what Bayless had been doing, and I see refs do this a lot these days, is when he sees the hands tangled up, he just walks up and untangles the hands. Doesn't say break, doesn't say stop fighting, none of that. Just untangles the hands. And Ramirez stops fighting. He takes it as if there's going to be a break. Taylor takes it as, well, shit, my hands are free. No one said break. I'm throwing a punch. So check this out. So you don't even see Bayless in the frame right here. I'm going to play a little bit. Boom. They're hugged up. But as they're hugged up, you see Taylor's right hand is loose, and so is Ramirez's right hand, right? So they're not in a full clinch. They're not tangled up. They can fight from here. And Bayless, throughout the entire fight, had been saying, fight out. Fight. He told them, fight out of the clinch, fight out of the clinch. Or when they did get tangled up on the inside, he'd break them. And in my opinion, he broke them way too soon. He wasn't letting these guys do any infighting. And there were some people on Twitter saying, well, that hurts Ramirez. It hurts both. Both these fighters love to do infighting. So it really hurt the flow of the fight is what it did. Anyway, as they're clinching here, and by the way, Later in the fight, it is Taylor who was clinching, right? That was part of his game plan, is on the inside when he was getting tired, clinch. When Bayless would break them up immediately, I think that you could make an argument in some ways that was helping Taylor, but let me just play this real quick. Boom. All he does here, I'm stopping it again, I'm pausing it, is Bayless is knocking down his hand, hasn't said the damn word, he's not on them. Ramirez is looking away, which you should never do. Taylor is being a dog in there. I mean, he's got his shoulder up in Ramirez's face, which he was doing throughout the fight. Taylor is not he's kind of got some Andre Ward and Bernard Hopkins in him, to be honest. He immediately goes for the uppercut, boom, and he's dropped. Now, I'm going to pause it again. Ramirez is down at 32 seconds. I let it go a couple more seconds here, but he was knocked down with 32 seconds in this round. And I'm not going to sit here and go through the entire sequence, but he's hurt. He's jacked up. Bayless is counting, right? Ramirez is back. Damn, it doesn't show the whole. You know what? I do have the clip. Hang on. Yeah, it's right here. Let me play this clip. There's the knockdown. We can't see the clock here, but Bayless lets Ramirez get up, starts to give him a count. I think he's already at 7 or 8, some shit like that, right? He's talking to him, tells Ramirez to walk to him, checks him, then backs Taylor up. Now, that is on Taylor. Now, by now, there's probably about 10 seconds left in the round, and Ramirez is able to make it out of the round. So props to Ramirez for hanging on, getting through the round, but a lot of people felt that Bayless gave him extra time there. So there are people on the Ramirez side, whether they be fans, boxing insiders, commentators, whatever, podcasters, who are furious with Kenny Bayless for interrupting in that sequence and slapping down the hand of Ramirez, and they think that's what's caused the knockdown there. That's wrong. What caused the knockdown there was Ramirez. And he even admitted, he talked about it after the fight, the post-fight interview, because some of the usual suspects that stick a camera in a dude's face and ask stupid-ass questions on YouTube were trying to bait him into saying, yeah, Bayless, it's his fault. Look, man, again, I paused that shit at several points, guys. Bayless slaps down the hand, but never gets right on them. He doesn't grab him with two hands. He doesn't jump in and say break, which he had done a billion times throughout that fight. All he did was knock down that hand. Ramirez turned his head away, not only away from Bayless so he couldn't see what was going on, he turned it away from Taylor. That's 100% on him, man. And yeah, Taylor fights nasty. He had his shoulder digged in. He would hit on a break. He'd do all those sorts of things. And yeah, it's very Andre Ward-esque. What's interesting to me is that some of the people who salivate and blow a load over watching Andre Ward will call Josh Taylor dirty. You guys got to be consistent. And when it comes to people out there who are pissed off at Kenny Bayless, honestly, fuck you. Because there's a lot of you out there that are really inconsistent with your complaints. And when I bring this shit up, even when it doesn't affect the outcome of a fight, right? When I consistently bring these things up and I tell you guys, if there's a majority decision that goes for, two judges get it right and one judge has it way off for the other fighter, and I bitch about it, a lot of you are the same people out there saying, Mike, lighten up. The right guy won. Jesus Christ, relax. The right guy won the fight. Why are you complaining so much? When I bring up inconsistencies in performance-enhancing drugs testing or promotional nonsense or sanctioning body nonsense, or in this case, a ref that is just making poor decisions throughout a fight, a lot of you guys will tell me to lighten up and you won't ask the hard questions. I'm talking to those of you in the media right now who are afraid to lose your press credential, or you're afraid to lose the access or the job that you have, whatever it is. So you won't ask the tough questions until it's safe. Now I see some of you asking about Kenny Bayless. I've been asking questions for years. I'm not the only one, but I'm one of very, very few. So yeah, what I have to say to you guys now who want to complain now because it's safe, I'm talking to the media people, or the fans of you out there who are complaining because it affected your guy this time, but don't complain the other times, fuck you, because you're part of the problem. Unless you're going to bring it up consistently and talk about this shit every time, I don't want to fucking hear it. So all of you bitching about Kenny Bayless right now because your guy lost, because you wanted Ramirez to win, fuck you, because you didn't care before this night. Also, there's plenty of decisions Kenny Bayless made in this fight that negatively affected Josh Taylor. It went both ways, okay? There was a makeup call right after that hand slap, and once Ramirez got dropped, where he gave him 30 seconds to, well, it was 22 seconds technically, to recover, and he had to survive for 10 more seconds, and then he got a minute break right after that. So he basically got a minute and a half to recover off of that knockdown. Also, let's not pretend that Taylor didn't drop him in the round previous to that cleanly and legally, okay? And I think that had the 7th round knockdown not happened, by the way, Taylor won the 7th round before that knockdown. He had won that round, okay? At that point, it was pretty much a 5 rounds to 2 fight, maybe four rounds to 3. That's the closest you could have it after 7 rounds for Taylor with the knockdown in the 6th. So even if that second knockdown didn't happen, I still think Taylor was going to go on to win this fight. It drives me nuts when some of you out there want to bitch and complain when it affects your guy, whether it's if you're a trainer, an advisor, a promoter, and then you want to bitch when a scorecard goes against your guy or your tribe, your nationality, whatever it is. Fuck all of you. Be consistent about this and talk about it consistently and ask the hard questions consistently or shut the fuck up. That's it. Ran over. All right. Let's talk about, I got to get in the chat here. Mendelli Cali says, attaboy Montero. Pietro says, real talk, Mike. Thank you, because I'm going to take some heat for that on Twitter this week. You guys know I'm going to get all the IST words thrown at me for that one, even though nothing about that was racist. Anyway. All right. Where do we rate Josh Taylor pound for pound? This is a debate going back and forth. You know what? I'm gonna go. Yeah, I'm feeling like it right now. I saw one of you guys, American boxing fans, said Ellie Seckback. Yep. Ellie was trying to bait him. Ellie blocked me on Twitter, and I don't know why. I've never said anything bad about Ellie, but you know what? Ellie, I watched that presser, and Ellie was trying to bait Ramirez into some clickbait type of video. And to his credit, Ramirez didn't take the bait. Props to him. Zach D says, speak the truth, Mike. I do. That's what I always do. People don't like truth anymore. A lot of you guys are saying top 5 for Taylor. John says Mike wants all the smoke. Yeah, man, go ahead, bring it at me. Go ahead, bring it at me. Here's the thing, man. These guys, when they throw all these things, these labels at me and they rip me up, they think like that shit bothers me. They think I lose sleep at night over that. In my opinion, if they're not talking about me, if they're not calling me those names and not labeling me that stuff, I'm not doing my job. When I start getting all that heat, then I know I'm doing my job. I know I'm onto something. And guess what? I keep getting more followers. This show every week keeps getting more viewers. The podcast is getting more downloads every week. So it's hitting a nerve with people. Why? Because I'm telling the truth. So if there's a handful of people out there that want to throw some labels at me and talk some shit, good for them. They're miserable fucks and nobody likes them. I'm sick of being Mr. Nice Guy. All right, Josh Taylor. Last 6 opponents had a combined record of 136-1. That's fucking amazing. 136-1. 4 were current or former title holders. And his biggest win, this is the most impressive part to me, his biggest win came on the road. He came over to the United States and fought Jose Carlos Ramirez. It's not like they fought in New York. They fought in Vegas. He's from Northern California. So Vegas isn't his backyard, but it's basically his neighbor's backyard, if you think about it, right? If you're from California, if you're a fighter out of Cali, Vegas, it's not your backyard. It's your neighbor's backyard down the street. That's where Taylor fought. So that's really impressive. That's super impressive. And I backed it up to his last 9 fights. This goes back to O'Hara Davies in 2017. If you look at Taylor's last 9 fights, the opponent's combined record was 220, 9-5. That is a 95% winning percentage. Okay. I looked at those same 9 fighters, their current records. Okay. So including all their fights since, 240, 30, and 6. That's an 85% winning percentage. So some of these guys have lost a couple afterwards, but overall, the last 9 guys, their records now, I'm talking about even after the fights with Taylor, 240, 30, in 6. You're still talking about several former or current title holders, and then what that big win on the road to unify everything. So I posed this question out there on Twitter. Is Josh Taylor's resume the best of any boxer right now with less than 20 fights? Because it might be. It's right there neck and neck with Teofimo Lopez. That's the other name that gets thrown around. And there's some similarities between these guys, but there's also some differences. Teofimo Lopez, I think Taylor's like 30 years old. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think he's like 30 years old. And Lopez is 23. I think they're 6 years apart. I think one guy's already had his birthday this year, one guy hasn't. So, but I think they're 6 years apart. Okay, so age-wise, even though they went pro about the same time, one's older. It's because Taylor fought in the World Series of Boxing. He fought on a little longer as an amateur than Teo did. So Teo went pro younger, okay? That's why you have that difference, because Teo has less fights. But his last 6 opponents, Teofimo Lopez, 142-7, which is pretty damn good. I mean, that's right there. It's not quite as impressive as Taylor's, but it's damn close. And I think 2 were former or current title holders, but here's the big difference. One was a former pound-for-pound number 1 guy in Vasily Lomachenko. Now, Lomachenko wasn't pound-for-pound number 1 when they fought, but he was probably, top 3 on most lists? He was definitely in the top 5 on most lists. I think probably 2 or 3 on many lists. So when Teo beat him, he has that pound-for-pound win. And I'm sorry, Taylor doesn't have that win, but Lopez does. So Taylor has more top wins. He's beaten more former or current title holders. He's taken more O's. He's fought more top guys. He also has a win on the road. But Teo has that one win over a pound-for-pound multi-division champion in Lomachenko. That's the difference. However, let me add a little nuance to this. When Teofimo Lopez fought Lomachenko, he was the younger guy, bigger, stronger, faster, more powerful, more explosive. He held all those advantages in that fight. That was his biggest fight, and he held pretty much every advantage except for the experience advantage. That's where Loma had him. But in Taylor's biggest fight, size, age, power, all those things were pretty even as far as the advantages. In fact, you could make an argument that the promotional A side, it was like A minus. It's not like it was AB. But I think it's pretty clear that Top Rank, who signed Ramirez coming out of the amateurs and had always represented him, the promotion was backing Ramirez 60-40 over Taylor, right? So Taylor was almost at a disadvantage, and he was also fighting on the road when he fought Ramirez. Lopez held advantages when he fought Lomachenko. So all things considered, I still think Lopez has the best win. But when you look at the resume top to bottom, especially the last 6, 7, 8, 9 fights, I think Taylor's resume is better than Lopez. I think you probably got to put Taylor above Lopez on the pound-for-pound list. And that's going to upset some people. That's going to bother some people. Because let's be fair to Teo, he also beat Nakatani. He also beat Kome. Those are good wins. But are they better wins than beating, Baranchek, Prograis, a younger Postol, right? He fought a better version of Postol than Ramirez ended up fighting in his last fight. So there's several guys there that I think might be better than those 2 wins than Lopez has. So I think that's the debate right now, man. But in terms of the best young fighters in the sport with less than 20 fights, the 2 best, I think, clearly are Taylor and Lopez at this point. I don't see how anyone can deny that. Where do I rate him? Where do I put him? I think Taylor belongs right at number 5. I really, really do think he belongs right at number 5, man. In fact, I want to pull up, and then we got a couple calls here. I'm going to get to you guys in just a second. But I want to pull up our current pound-for-pound ratings, because this is what we were discussing on the Ring Ratings Committee this week. And so I'm looking. Actually, I can share my screen. I can share this with you guys. Why? I always forget to do this. But let's, where's it at? There we go. Yeah, check it out. Okay. Number one, Canelo, of course. Canelo's the pound for pound number one guy right now, and I don't really know how you can deny that. Number two, Inoue, I think that's fair. He has a fight coming up, and he'll win big. But Terrence Crawford at number three, this is a big one for me because I'm a huge Terrence Crawford fan. And I had him number one for several years. It was between him and Lomachenko for a while there, right? They were like the 1A, 1B. But now, dude, when's the last time Terrence fought? And when's the last time he fought somebody that you really thought had a real chance to win? You know, it's been a long, long time. I can't put Terrence Crawford in my top five right now. I just can't. And it's not because I don't believe he's one of the best fighters in the world, because I do. He might be the best fighter in the world, but I can't rate you, dude. I can't rate you in the top five when you ain't fighting nobody. And do I think Spence avoided Crawford more than Crawford avoided Spence? Yes, 100%. Even people in PBC told me that. They told me that, okay? I've been pretty open with you guys about that. I've been told that from several people over on that side for years. They don't really hide it, that they have a business plan over there. So I feel for Crawford, but at the same time, dude, your PR machine, not good. When he's saying, yeah, I'm not even thinking about Spence no more. When they're not even trying, when you're not fighting somebody, I can't put him in the top five. He's out. He's out of my top five. I still put him in the top 10 because I think he's great. I really think he's special. Out of the top five. Usyk. It's not his fault that the heavyweight division got held up by three divas, but he hasn't fought nobody. And what he did at cruiserweight was he has the best cruiserweight resume ever. Better than Holyfield's. That was going to upset some of you too. But Usyk fought in a mature division with better fighters than Holyfield did. It was a brand new division when Holyfield won it all, and that was 190, right? Usyk's was 200, and the guys Usyk would beat the guys Holyfield beat. Usyk's the best cruiserweight ever, the most accomplished cruiserweight ever, at least, okay? But how long can he live off of the cruiserweight resume? Right now, I can't put Usyk in my top five. I can't do it. Spence doesn't belong in the top five. He just doesn't. And in terms of pound for pound, he doesn't belong there right now. I think Teofimo Lopez does. I put Teo above Spence, but I got to put Taylor up there. Guys, Taylor's the lowest I can put him is number 5. That's the lowest. But I'm looking at this pound for pound list, and it's kind of bleak because no one's fighting, dude. Nobody's fighting. I think Ioka, it's time he moves up because of his accomplishments. I think perhaps it's time that we bring Chocolatito back. Let's see how Lomachenko looks against Nakatani. I saw one of you guys on the chat asking, what if Nakatani beats Lomachenko? Then he's out, and then we're going to reevaluate where we put Nakatani. I don't think he'd be pound for pound, but Loma would be out. But this list is bleak right now. The biggest problem with this list is these guys aren't fighting. Now, this can all be solved if Crawford fights soon. Let's say Usyk gets the Joshua fight. If he beats Joshua, he might be the pound for pound number 1 guy, because that would be an unprecedented accomplishment, what he would have done. All right. But if that doesn't happen, if he ends up fighting somebody else like Joe Joyce or something like that, then I don't know. But right now, that's the biggest problem with this list. I think that Jermell Charlo is going to be on this list very soon. And he should be, especially if and when he beats Castaño. But there's probably a couple other guys that it's time that we just put them in here and take out some of these names, because these guys are just not active enough, man. They're not fighting. And boxing is a business of what have you done for me lately. That is a big part of the sport of boxing. And look, there's going to be people out there that if Spence beats Pacquiao, which he should, there's going to be people out there that say, well, now Spence is a Hall of Famer, this, that, the other. Stop. If Charlo and Golovkin fought right now and Charlo beat Golovkin by decision, would Jermall Charlo rate Hall of Fame? No, right? So stop saying if Spence beats Pacquiao right now, because it's not exactly the same thing, but it essentially is. When's the last time Pacquiao fought? How active has he been? Yeah, some of you need to chill. All right, let's go to the phones. We got a couple phone calls here, and then we'll get to the preview. All right, guys? All right. Now that I probably got myself fired earlier on that rant. 773, you're on the show. Go.
What's going on, Mike? Beautiful. Love it. See that you. This is John Herman.
John, what's up, man?
Couple of things. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you
doing,
good.
Brother? Well, the fight did play out. Kind of some of the scenarios we talked about with Josh Taylor and Ramirez. He didn't get the stoppage, which I thought he could have. He did bring up a great point. He cruised those last couple of rounds, and it nearly cost him. I don't know if making weight is a grind for him, or if this is a mindset, or whether or not he doesn't believe it, because he did it more than once. He brought up some of the fights that he kind of cruised. So I'm wondering. I will say this about Kenny Bayless. Once I thought he was the best ref, but that was like late 90s, early 20s.
Exactly.
I think Kenny is I think it's time for him to retire. I may mention this. I know Doug Fisher has brought this up recently, but I do think it's time for Kenny to retire. I don't think he, to me, in my eyes, when I looked at the fight, he did seem to favor Ramirez a little bit, in my opinion. You do bring up a good point about the hand slap, but the one thing I've learned in the gym is I always said, protect yourself at all times.
Yep.
Taylor is mean. His inside game is nasty, and he did exactly what he should have. He took advantage of it. If you decide to look away because a ref slaps your hand, you take advantage. You have to protect yourself at all times. But very, very good win. I do not believe he's going to fight Terrence Crawford next or the second fight, because I think he has better options at 140. And I think that he's going to take a page out of the Marvin Hagler, Bernard Hopkins playbook. And what I mean by that is there are guys at 135 who I don't believe are going to be continue to make 135. Let those guys move up. Cecile is one of them. And maybe Ryan Garcia when he comes. Devin Haney is a big lightweight. And he can fight those guys. Those would be better options for him, and I think more winnable fights. I don't think he matches up with Crawford well enough. The same way as I thought that he does a little bit of everything better than Ramirez, I think Terrence is the same way towards Josh Taylor.
I agree.
Also, if I was running Taylor's camp, and this is just me, people are going to probably think this is weird, and I'm going to say this, but this is boxing, and this is what teams do. Wait him out. How old is Terrence? He's 34 years old. Wait till he's 36. Wait till there's vulnerability. Then he can take advantage of that. Is that the right way to do it? No, not necessarily. But I just think that Taylor has more options. He should explore them. I do believe that he's top 5 from pound for pound. But on the pound for pound thing is this. There's two things I look at with pound for pound. You can either look at it as most accomplished, or, in my opinion, you could look at pound for pound for what it really should be. If all of these guys were the same weight division, and everything was equal, who would win? That's how I usually rank them. Though I do put in accomplishments as well. But when I go down to the true sense of pound for pound, if you have to put all these guys and say they was the same weight, that's how I look at it. That's why I always thought pound for pound worked. But I do understand how people are objective and you change it, because it's subjective of how you look at it with accomplishment. That's why, even though I love Canelo, I don't have him as my pound for pound number one guy. I have the monster there because I think he's been much more impressive. If that guy was a welterweight, he'd be number one in the world right now, I believe, as a pound for pound guy. But fantastic fight. I do agree with you. I don't think it was a dominating win by Taylor, but I do think it was a clean win. But I wish he would have went with my predictions, because I thought he had a chance to stop Ramirez, but he just took his foot off the gas tank. I have no idea why he did that. But that's about all, man. I mean, there are a couple other things I do, but I know you got other callers. Great. Love your honesty. Continue to follow you on Twitter. Love the podcast. Just keep doing your work, brother. And I'll keep following.
Thank you so much, man. Great stuff, John.
One last thing. You really think Usyk is a better cruiserweight than Evander Holyfield?
I'm not saying better. I'm saying more accomplished.
No, I'm just really okay. Well,
here's why I say that. Here's why I say that.
I'm biased though.
Dude, I love Holyfield.
I grew up.
Yeah.
I grew up with Holyfield, so most of the connections for me. But go
He's
ahead.
right.
Why you say more comments?
He's right there. Look, man, I've Holyfield lives. Well, he has a home here in Atlanta. Like, I've shot the shit with him. I've talked to him a bunch of times. He's an awesome guy. I love Holyfield, and I rate him higher.
Look at it all the time.
I think that the cruiserweight division started in 1979 by the WBC. Okay. And the other sanctioning organizations didn't jump on until a little while after that. And I think at that time it was called like junior heavyweight. They didn't call it cruiserweight. They called it junior heavyweight.
Correct. Yes, you are. You are correct. It was
junior
heavyweight. I think they changed it from a marketing standpoint.
Yeah, because people are like, well, how the hell do you go from light heavyweight to junior heavyweight to right? So they didn't know what to call it, right? You know what I'm saying? It was confusing. Right. So when Holyfield won, first of all, it was 190 pounds, but second of all, it was a baby division, dude. It's almost like the way I look at some of these female champions right now, where literally they're creating a belt. Like a lot of Clarissa's belts, they just like, oh, well, shit, we've never had a champion at 168. You want to fight at 168, Clarissa? Here you go. It's kind of what UFC did for Ronda Rousey. So I'm not saying they did that exactly for Evander.
You are absolutely correct about that. Because I don't think Shields is the best fighter, Amanda. But go ahead.
But so that's why I'm saying when Usyk fought, it was a mature division that had been around for like 40 years almost, and you had guys who had been fighting there as amateurs, all the way up, because basically, what is it? There's super heavyweight in the amateurs, and that's basically pro heavyweight, and the heavyweight guys in the amateurs end up being cruiserweights, right? So you have this deep talent of pool of talent internationally for decades going into that cruiserweight division. So I just think Usyk completely unified a more mature division. That's why I rate his accomplishments higher. Now, does that mean I'd pick him head to head to beat Holyfield? That's a different discussion. That's different.
Now, I'm actually semi-trolling with you. I understand what you were coming from. I'm just a big Evander fan, so I've always looked at him as the best cruiserweight and the most accomplished, only in the sense of how he did it. I do agree it was more of it wasn't as deep when Usyk did it, but Evander did it. He looked like Joe Louis the way he did it. He was so much more impressive to me. So
that's a good point.
He did it. How many fights does Usyk have right now? I can't recall.
Shit. I don't think he has 20 fights, man. Let me look. Because
right. And the thing is, I also looked at the one thing with, and this is not, just a retort, is another reason I think we have a problem with boxing right now. And I'm just going to use Evander, and I'm going to jump to some other people. If I'm not mistaken, Holyfield title shot, I think he was 23 years old. And a lot of guys, some of the greats that we all admire, except for Hagler, because people avoid them, they had their title shots very early.
Yeah.
And so that's another reason why I look at boxing. Now, some of these guys are way. So even though Taylor is a little older, I don't know why he's like 30. I always thought he was like younger than that, considering the amount of fights he had. I like what he did, Ramirez did, Sophia did, the Monster did. These guys are taking fights at a very, very young age. And I don't have a problem with any of that. I just think if we saw more of that, we'll have less clown shows, we'll have less YouTubers fighting ex-NBA players, and we'll have less older dudes doing these boxing exhibitions. But that's on boxing and the platforms, but I also blame it on fighters. That I don't know if they realize that at a certain status, they're the boss. But then there's another flip side to that. If these guys are getting paid so much money, which some of these guys get 7 figures to fight a mediocre opponent, you know they're going to ask for even much more when they have to fight some guy at least.
100%.
I always think if you get them when they're young, they're doing more because that's what legacy is about. They usually go after all that glory when you're younger. And when you get 30, you start to make business decisions, with the exception of Taylor. Not everybody's like that, but unfortunately, we're caught in that kind of situation. And I hate to say this guy doesn't have 20 or less fights. And I'm going to go on the record right now. The best young fighter to me, he's not the most accomplished, but I think he's the best, is Bruce Ennis. I think he's better than Taylor, and I think he's better than Sophia, even though I love both of them. Yeah. Unfortunately, Boots has more than 20 fights, but I think he's the best young fighter. I think he's better than the rest of them. Unless he can't catch, if he doesn't have a chance,
100%.
I think he's going to be very, very special.
If he can catch, bro,
very special.
He's going to be pound for pound number one in 2 years.
Yeah, that's the only thing I don't know if he can do. If he can catch, though, yeah, he's a guy that I really believe is going, when he gets his opportunity, he's going to be a guy that's potentially going to beat one of the top bigger name welterweights right now. Because I think it's going to force either that or they're going to have to give up their belt. And I just think that he has that type of talent. I think he's that good. I've been on him for 3-4 years. I keep telling people that he is that good. I would love to see him get a title shot now. I don't know if he'll win, but I know he'll be competitive. I think he's just that good.
I
agree.
I
see what you're saying about the Usyk thing. Keep doing you, man. I love it. I love that you call people out. I love that you don't hold back. I wish more media people were like you. But unfortunately, like you said, the accessibility and they don't want to call certain things out. And no, Errol Spence is not a Hall of Famer.
Not yet. He should be one day, but he's not yet.
He could.
Yeah.
He could. Yeah, but he's furry. I don't think he's afraid of. I don't believe that he's avoiding Terrence Crawford, but I do believe he's making business decisions. I think he wants to get all the belts on his side and become the A side. But I don't think there's any money in that fight for him and Crawford. Not what they want. If the report is true.
Not at all.
I think they want $10 million apiece. I keep telling people if that fight was supposed to be this big money fight that everyone thinks it is, they would have made it. Boxing loves money. They would have already made the fight, and no one is willing to make it. So to me, that definitely means there's no money there. And for it to happen, that means Spence and Crawford have to be more like Pernell Whitaker and say, hey, just give me the guy. I'll take whatever. Just make the fight. Don't worry about the money. Just make the fight. And unfortunately, I don't think they're ever going to fight.
I've lost all hope.
I'm kind of over it.
Me too.
Yeah, I lost all hope. I am beating the drums for Enos versus Ortiz. I think they'll fight before I see Terrence Crawford. Yeah, before I see Terrence Crawford and Spence. I just don't see that happening at all. All right, sir. I'm quite sure you got more calls, so I can monopolize your time all the time, like I said before. But I continue to listen to the show. Thanks for picking my call up, Mike. You have a great week, brother.
All right, brother. You too. Great call. Great call from John, man. And I looked it up. Usyk has had 18 fights. So I think you could put Usyk in that same category of guys with 20 or less fights that have done pretty amazing things. Isn't it interesting that 3 of the guys that have unified all the belts in the 4-belt era have less than 20 pro fights when they did it? There's a pattern here. What's great is that one of them's American. I wish more of our American boxers would be like that. All right, let's get another call here, guys. Let's see. Oh, some of you have been on hold for a minute. All right, 818. You're on the call, or you're on the show. 818. What's up? 818. Can you hear me? Hello. Mike? Hello? All right, you get the. Yeah, now I can hear you.
Can you? Hey, what's up, man? How you doing, bro? It's
good.
Ace from Ventura.
Ace from Ventura. What's up, bro?
Nothing much. Fucking listening to your show, but yeah, man, just a couple of things here. Heard what you said about the Ramirez and Taylor fight. First and foremost, man, no nothing to take away from Taylor. Great job, man. Good fighter. Great fight. And I think he is one of the top pound for pound right now, if there's such a thing, But as far as the Kenny Bayless thing, I don't see nothing wrong with him right now. I mean, whatever, he made some mistakes and all that, with the fight. He could have maybe just, warned Taylor for the clinching. I thought Taylor was clinching way too much. And it was undecisive as far as, pushing him apart at some times. Maybe that's what kind of caused the uppercut, to land or whatnot. But at the end of the day, that's on Ramirez, man.
Right.
Like I said, not taking anything away from Taylor, but that's on Ramirez, and he even said it himself, I think, in an interview. But
he did,
So you say, I mean, some people could say, Bayless might have caused that. Maybe he did, maybe he didn't. But at the end of the day, it's on Ramirez. He should have. He didn't have enough experience, you could say, to know what to do in those instances, you know. Taylor was just fighting, doing what he had to do, and that's how he got the W. Same thing goes, man, for that Texas referee,
Lawrence Cole.
I think that's his name.
Yeah, Lawrence Cole.
Look, man, a lot of people say he's a bad referee. You know what? He probably is a bad referee. I've seen a lot of his fights. But look, it's a fight in there. You know, if I were the fighter, I would get away with anything I can and let the referee take care of the rest of it. And if he's not saying anything, I'm going to do what I'm going to do, you know? So, I mean, in that respect, like I said, hats off to Taylor. Great fighter, man. I was going for Ramirez, and that's my boy right there, you know. But hey, at the end of the day, the better fighter won. And, I think that the fight against Crawford would actually be really good, bro. What do you think about that if it did happen?
If it happens right now, I agree with John, the previous caller. I just think that Terrence is a special fighter. Terrence Crawford is mean and nasty as Taylor is, because he is. Crawford's even nastier and meaner, and that's one of the things I love about him, and he doesn't apologize for it. You know, I just think he does everything a little bit better than Taylor, like John said. And now perhaps, here's the thing with Taylor. I actually think he's still getting better. I think that he needs a few more fights, and I don't know how much longer he makes 140, but we know he's going to be at 147 by this time next year, probably. So what would be awesome is if him and Teofimo Lopez could fight like at the end of this year. That would be an amazing fight. I just politically don't know if it could happen, but next year at some point he'll be up at 47, and it's going to be tough for him politically because there's not a whole lot of fighters there willing to face him. But maybe face a couple of the old veterans, grow into the weight, work on some things with Ben Davidson. They seem to work well together, his new trainer, and then fight Crawford maybe in a year, maybe like 2023, something like that. And we'll see. But like if they were to fight right now, dude, I just think Crawford has more levels to him. But it wouldn't be a knockout. It'd go all 12, and it'd be a 116, 112, 115, 113 kind of fight. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I agree with you on that, actually. Definitely would be an interesting match. But you know what? I don't think Teofimo is actually ready for a Taylor, man. Yeah. I mean, as big as the dude is for 130, 130, 135 or whatnot, Taylor is actually a pretty big guy. You know what I'm saying? And I mean, he has more dimensions to his game than Lopez, in my opinion. I mean, he's a younger guy, could be, faster, quicker or whatnot, but, Taylor has he's a mean, like you said, he's just got that mean in him, that you just can't it's only certain fighters have it, and for Teofimo right now to fight him, I don't know, man, it's going to be, I would, if I were Top Rank, I wouldn't let him fight right now. I mean, he's going to be a cash cow for years to come,
That's a good point.
That would be, I mean, it would definitely be an interesting fight. You know what I'm saying? But, I mean, as a fan, like I said, put every fight on. I don't give a damn about the money. Yeah. But, like at the Top Rank, I don't think you let him fight Taylor near anywhere. I mean, put it this way. They didn't give much promotion to the fight. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I mean, as good as Ramirez was, I mean, I would always go for Ramirez because that's my boy, I'm gonna root for my people. But, I always knew there was a chance that Taylor could wind up winning. But, the promotion side of it, somebody in the background has to know, the fighters really well to match up and be like, you know what, Taylor could pull it off. He probably will pull it off. And the promotion wasn't there, which it's bad because it was a great fight. It was one of those fights that, didn't matter. And, Taylor won it, hats to him. But, in this case with Lopez, I don't know how long he's going to be with Top Ranks because of all this, Triller stuff. But
yeah, that's the thing.
I wouldn't lose if I were him.
That's the thing too. And that's where you could get into all the business stuff, right? We could talk about that shit for an hour, but it's like, let's say Top Rank contractually has one more fight with Teofimo, and then they know Teofimo's going to leave. Well, shit, he's leaving anyway.
Damn.
Let's go ahead and make the fight between him and Taylor. You know what I'm saying? So you just don't know what could happen.
Now you're talking there, buddy. Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, great fight. It would be a great fight, but, we'll see. But anyways, man, I just want to say that. But another quick thing about, man, But I want to just run by or just comment real quick. So they have that PBC podcast. I forgot the guy's names or whatever, but I listen to them once in a while. It just depends on who's there and whatnot, But they had come up after the Canelo fight, man. They were just kind of like talking about pound for pound kind of list. And I don't know if it's like a PBC thing with them because they got to root for their their peoples or whatever. But once in a while you got to kind of say the truth. But man, these guys are saying that they don't even have Canelo. Like he's probably at number 2 or 3 right now. And I think they think Spence is is pound for pound. Like,
ESPN's the same way, man.
Me?
ESPN rates Crawford number 1, and I'm like, come on, guys, like stop.
Look, I mean, I get it. Don't get me wrong. You know what I'm saying? But I think it's for the good of for the sport overall, and even for the networks themselves. Because at one point, he's gonna have to fight one of these people in the network. In one of the networks. I think. You don't have to go that far not to say or not to mention names, but to like, flat out say that they don't have Canelo, not even a for sure number 2. It's like now you're taking it a little too far. You can't you can't what's it called fool the boxing fans, but I guess they're aiming at the casuals in these kind of situations, But I just thought that was kind of like wow, are you kidding me? You're saying that. That Canelo's overrated. That's exactly what they're saying. Overrated. I'm all like,
I don't know who's on that podcast, but does anyone listen to it? I'm not trying, and I'm not trying to hate on anyone else's podcast, but I'm saying, dude, there are 100 boxing podcasts. There are very few that do more than 200 views or whatever. You know what I'm saying? There's only a few,
right,
that break through and get thousands of views. There's like 2 or 3 that get hundreds of thousands, but that's because of who's doing it. Like Mike Tyson, Teddy Atlas, these guys are big names. But there are very, very few done by media members that get 5,000, a few thousand. Like, I'm happy to be one of those guys. But a big part of it is because I tell the truth about what's going on. And to be clear, I'm talking about my total views on YouTube plus all my downloads with the audio. I'm doing thousands. And like, I think I'm not paying for any of that. I'm not paying to get followers and stuff like a lot of people do on social. It's because I'm trying to tell the truth. And there's very few people out there willing to do that, man. There's just very few people.
No. Yeah, absolutely, bro. I agree with you on that. I don't mind if you're we can all agree to disagree or meet halfway or whatever. I'm all good for that, But if you're, if you're that type that can't really do that, and always have to be right or just, have it your way, then that's like a deal breaker for me. But, it's funny because when they actually said that, and like I said, I'm not defending Canelo. He's, I like him and all that. He's one of my top fighters and all that. But, I will admit when it's right or wrong, But when they started saying that, and how they're saying like, oh, he's overrated and blah blah blah, I was like, that turned me off a lot, bro. And I rarely get turned off. You know what I'm saying? It rarely happens to me. But that kind of like to pull the trigger or switch on me. Like, oh hell no, Especially saying it saying that's like to a fighter or saying that as a fighter like Canelo, where he's one of the few fighters. I don't know if you agree or disagree, but he's one of the few fighters that you can actually see improvement. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can see like every single thing that he from beginning to end, like how he's improved, and that's really rare for fighters. To see that in fighters. I mean, they'll improve, with little things, but with Canelo, you see a whole different level of him from before to now, and to say he's overrated, with the resume that he has, some are here and there, however you want to say it. But, that was just a big turnoff for somebody to say. And especially like, if you're like on that side of the street kind of thing, maybe they could have worded it differently or whatever, but that was just a stupid comment, in my opinion. But, but that's why I keep listening to you, bro. I mean, you're the neutral corner.
I try, man. Sometimes I get heated, but it's just interesting that they would say that because he's going to fight Caleb Plant next, and Caleb Plant is a PBC guy. So you would think the people on whatever podcast that is, if it's a PBC podcast, that they would want to build up Canelo because he's going to be fighting their guy later this year, probably. They're talking about that anyway.
Right.
And that would be natural to promote that fight. So it doesn't make sense to me why they'd be talking that guy down. But dude, I got like several, like 4 or 5 more calls, so I should probably get jumping here in a minute. But
handle it, bro. Handle it. Thanks for the call, man, and I'll talk to you later.
Thanks a lot, man. I appreciate it. Yeah, I'd like to hear that podcast. I just look, ESPN, and I've talked about ESPN before because I think they're really compromised. They don't give a shit about boxing, boxing and Bulldogs. In fact, here on the chat just said ESPN cares so much more about MMA than boxing. That's true, and it's a point that Steve Kim has brought up on his podcast, the 3 Knockdown Rule with Mario Lopez, where he's talked about the budget for boxing is $84 million for ESPN. That's what they give the top rank for that budget. But I'm positive. I'm quite sure. I'm not positive because I haven't looked, but I'm quite sure if you looked at what ESPN spends on female college softball, it's probably just as much. I mean, I was chilling at the hotel because I was up in the hotel. I covered a fight this weekend, and I was staying at a hotel with the promotion. And Sunday morning, we're getting ready. We're packing to leave, my wife and I, and drive back home. And I'm flipping through the channels, and it was one of the ESPNs. I don't know if it was ESPN2 or what one of them. They had college female softball. Okay. So it wasn't just baseball. It was softball. It wasn't just pro. It was college. It wasn't just male. It was female. And I'm thinking, this is female, and I'm no disrespect. Okay. It is what it is. Female college softball. And I'm thinking, as it relates to their budget with boxing, I'm like, I bet you their budget for this is almost as much as what they spend on fucking top ranked boxing. Seriously. So like, do I trust ESPN's pound for pound ratings? Do I read any of their news or articles when it comes to boxing? Fuck no. I don't do it. Now with PBC, at least with PBC, here's where I'll give them credit. PBC has a website, Premier Boxing Champions, and you go there and you read about their fighters. And if there's articles on PBC, you expect it to be about PBC fighters. It's not like an all-encompassing boxing website. It's specific to PBC. So I expect their podcast to be biased. I expect their articles to be biased and all read in one direction. ESPN tries to promote themselves as this worldwide sports leader. So, I would expect what they do to be unbiased. But when you have Terrence Crawford pound for pound number 1, and he hasn't fought in over a year. Meanwhile, Canelo's fought 3 times in 6 months, and he's not fighting. I get it. He's not fighting Pernell Whitaker, or the Marvin Hagler, like those kinds of guys. I get it. But he's fighting 3 times in the past 6 months, and he's unifying titles. He's the number 1 guy in the sport. He's carrying the sport right now. He might not be the best fighter. Again, Terrence Crawford might be a better fighter, pound for pound. But in terms of accomplishments and who's fighting and who's carrying the sport right now, it's Canelo. So when I see ESPN rate Crawford pound for pound number 1, I'm like, come on, guys. Stop. Anyway, all right, back to the phones we go. 910, you're on the show. Yo. Ooh, I hear my voice. I hear my voice in the background. Are you just listening, or do you want to chat? 910, what's up?
910, you're on the show.
I hear myself saying 910. Yeah, I can hear you, but I hear me too, so you got to mute the show.
Oh, bad crap. I'm sorry. Oh, hey, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, man. What's up?
I can't hear you. I can't hear you.
You can't hear me? That's interesting that you can't hear me.
Mike, it's Jacob.
Jacob,
Can you hear me?
I can hear you, bro, but if you can't hear me, something's wrong.
You got me?
I got you. Do you got me?
Yeah, I got you now. Jeez, Louise. I'm sorry about that.
It's all good, man. Technology, bro.
Hey, so real quick, I want to. Hey, this is Jacob. We talked a couple weeks ago about Felix Verdeo.
Yeah, what's up, man? How you been?
What's up? I'm doing good. So, hey, we actually get to talking about some boxing, some fights today. So I'm going to agree with you with the Josh Taylor moving up a couple notches on this pound for pound list. We got to put him up there. Now, I understand how pound for pound works. And the best fighter in the same weight, if they were in the same weight, I got all that. But when fighters are close in skill, we start talking about the Taylors, the Canelos, the Crawfords. We got to find things that separate them. And for me, this weekend, Taylor did that. Yeah. Number one, he did it because not only did he live up to the hype, and he didn't let the historical implications of this fight and the magnitude of this fight rattle him. Man, he looked cool. He looked calm. He looked collected. As a matter of fact, he looked like he was having fun in there.
Yeah.
All right. And number two, like Tyson Fury said, when it comes to guys at this close of a skill, at this caliber of elite boxing, it's who executes the perfect game plan. And for me, Josh Taylor did that. Josh Taylor's plan the whole time, it was evident that he was going to wait for Ramirez to do his forward assault and wait and counter him, and he did that. And that moment came in the sixth round.
Yep.
Okay, with that first left hook, dropped Ramirez. And then he capitalized in the seventh round. And I get that whatever everybody's saying about Kenny Bayless and whatever, man, protect yourself at all times. Be situational where you are in a fight. Okay? So he capitalized. He put him on his butt, and I don't think Ramirez is the same fighter after that. In terms of coasting, I'm going to have to disagree with a lot of folks. Okay? To me, that was a strategic move. You got what you think is a lead, okay? And you could argue that if it wasn't for those two knockdowns, the fight may have been tied or whatever the case it was. But he was, in my eyes, he was separating himself away from Ramirez little by little by little, okay? And so for me, he executed the perfect game plan. The boy could fight, and he didn't let the magnitude of the event overtake him. So for those little nuances, I think he should be pound for pound. I think he needs to move up, and I agree with you wholeheartedly on that.
Cool. Yeah, it's a matter of debate of where you put him. That's all.
Oh, hey, listen, I'm with you in the top five. I'm okay with that in the top five. All right, and because for all the reasons you said, the better resume, and look, he just keeps getting better. Okay, you know, he just keeps getting better. He rises up to the occasion. He doesn't buckle under pressure. He didn't do it against Prograis. He didn't do it with Ramirez. And listen, in terms of Crawford, if they were to fight now, and I agree with you, and I agree with everybody else how special Crawford is. He is a special fighter. We all know this. But we also know, okay, I'm going to start getting a little hype here, Mike. We also know that boxing works off of momentum. Crawford hasn't fought. I mean, Crawford hasn't fought in over I don't know how long. And Taylor keeps fighting and keeps fighting and keeps getting better. So
yeah, that's a good point.
If you were to put the two in the ring right now, okay, you were to put those two in the ring right now, I think Taylor fight midgets made best Crawford.
That's a really good point, man. That's again my favorite word, nuance. That's one of those little nuances that I think momentum is a big thing, dude. And you're right. When is the last time Crawford was in with a killer like Taylor? You know, Taylor's been facing guys like Prograis. I'm high on Prograis, Ramirez. These are good fighters, bro. These are good fighters.
These are good fighters, man. These are good fighters, okay? So I'm going to move on to my last point. I know you got a couple of callers, but I am not a fan. Listen, I'm not a fan of Manny Pacquiao fighting these guys, okay? Manny Pacquiao, as the big legend that he is, I want him to go retire and be a legend.
Yes.
Okay? I don't want him to take a bad hit. And Spence is not that guy. Spence is not Thurman. Okay? Spence is not Thurman. Spence is going to get in here. He's going to put Pacquiao's going to know when he steps in that ring with Spence that he's not Keith Thurman. Now, that's not to take anything away from Pacquiao. And this fight does nothing to elevate Spence's status quo. He will not get in the Hall of Fame with this, okay? Because it's a damned if you do, don't situation when it comes to Spence, okay? If he beats Pacquiao, he was supposed to beat a 41-year-old. If he loses to Pacquiao, you got beat by a 41-year-old. So this does nothing to elevate Spence's status quo. And listen, I just want my man Manny Pacquiao, the legend that he is, to go retire off do senator things, do singing things, do basketball things, and let Spence get at some of these other guys, and go on from there. Hey, Mike, that's all I got. It was a mouthful in about 2 minutes. I'd like to hear your thoughts.
Dude, you said do basketball things. You should have said do very bad basketball things. Have you ever seen Manny play basketball? Dude, how is he a professional basketball player, man? It's so bad watching him play, dude. That's hilarious. But look, I'm with you. I've been saying that for years. I've been saying that before the Thurman fight. I think that there was sneaky genius to the matchmaking of the timing of the Pacquiao-Thurman fight, because I think people involved knew Thurman's ready to lose. He's right there. He's been close a couple times. The right guy on the right night with enough experience is going to beat him. So when they fought, Pacquiao won, and it's a great win for Pacquiao because of his age and everything else. But I think there's a little bit of smoke and mirrors there. And I agree with you, brother, that Spence is not Thurman. And Spence is explosive. He's shown so far that he can catch. I just think he's going to be too much for Manny at this point. Now, fucking 10 years ago, forget about it. Pacquiao wins that big. But right now, Spence all day. If Spence doesn't dominate this fight and at least drop Manny, I think it's a moral loss for him, even if he wins.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I agree.
But to the casuals, this is going to be, he's fighting a legend. Because I've seen people on the Facebook chat groups and stuff saying, oh, man, this is a super fight. So cool. Look, if it does business and people buy into this, great. If that helps everybody and Pacquiao gets his retirement pension check, cool. But regardless, win, lose, or draw, I want to see Manny walk out after this. I'm with you, man. It's time to hang him up, dude.
All right, Mike. Hey, thanks for taking my call. I love your show, man. Hopefully we can be again.
Absolutely, brother. Have a good one. All right, there he goes. We got a few more guys. Man, some of you guys, I would get into this fight preview, but some of these guys have been holding for over 30 minutes. So 614, you're on the show. Go.
Hey, what's up, Mike? This is John Newton, man. Just got back off the red eye about 2 a.m. from Vegas after the fight. Wanted to give you a call.
Yeah, give us the scouting report, man. Well, first of all, red eye flight. God damn, I hate red eye flights. Oh my God, I'm too tall for that shit.
Yeah,
but
and it was late.
I hate that shit. How'd it go, man? What was your thoughts about, first of all, the promotion there around the Virgin Hotels? Because I heard it was shit from friends of mine. And then the actual experience being at the fight itself, and then the fight itself.
Promotion was, as expected, disappointingly zero. I mean, nothing even outside the hotel. Like, not even a poster or I would walk around the strip. Nobody knew anything about a fight going on, you know. So I didn't really have to, you could usually go to Vegas and talk to some people that were there for the same thing, but I couldn't find
Yeah,
anybody.
that's part of the fun of going to
ground.
Vegas, man. That's part of the fun going to Vegas for a Vegas fight is like you'll go to bars and shit and you could tell a boxing head because we look different than other sports people, right? You could just tell if someone's a boxing head and you'll just be like, yo, you here for the fight? Oh, yeah. You start talking. So you didn't even have that?
No, and I made it a point to bring actual hat, my cruiserweight hat and a boxing T-shirt. That way somebody would say, oh, you got your gear on, so you're here for the fight, right?
Right.
Nothing.
Wow.
Not one.
That's terrible, man.
But yeah, it was disappointing in that fact. But at the actual event, it was pretty exciting, man. People had a lot of energy. It's small as shit, but Ramirez crowd was in there deep for sure.
Yeah.
And they were excited for him. And there was some Scotland flags flying around, which was still cool. You could hear them singing when they were coming down the hall for sure.
Yeah, they like to sing over there, man. That's the thing. Any fight with any UK fighter is more fun because those dudes just drink and sing, and they start like when they wake up. I don't know how they walk the next day, but yeah, they like to drink and sing.
Yeah, and then when Fury walked in, it was over really. But there was a lot of faces around. Basile was there, Lomachenko, and so people were excited about the fight. So it was really more hardcore boxing fans in the event. I don't know where they were around the strip, but they were there at the event. Not so many people that I thought might show up just because the casino gave them some tickets and they just decided to do it to kill a couple hours.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I mean, like just watch it on TV. The sound was good. It sounded like, you know, there was passion in there. And sometimes a small venue like that, it almost makes it sound louder because the acoustics of it, you know what I'm saying? So that's cool.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, I had Taylor. I put some scratch on Taylor and won, but I also put a little side thing on the knockout because in my mind I could see something playing out, not exactly as brutal, but what Valdez did to Burchell with Ramirez going for it late and getting caught with something. Because I know a lot of people made points about Taylor maybe fading down the stretch, but Ramirez kind of 6th, 7th, 8th round has been known to do that itself, you know.
Yeah.
So he sets this torrid pace at the beginning, but and that's pretty much where he got caught by Taylor too, was that 6th, 7th round.
That's a good point. Yeah, I know people hate CompuBox statistics, but I was looking and I thought that Ramirez kind of shot his wad in the 3rd and 4th rounds. Those are the rounds where he threw the most punches in the fight. And you saw right after that in those middle rounds, that's where Taylor kind of made his push. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I don't know if those fights with Baranchik and Prograis helped Taylor in that because both of them faced some nice competition, but Taylor kind of faced guys that kind of had that pressure that Ramirez gives him. But Ramirez didn't really face anybody similar to a Taylor, you know?
That's a good point.
That skill set.
That's a good point.
So when it got rough, I think Taylor just kind of absorbed it. Some people thought he was hurt, but I don't think he was hurt at all.
He wasn't hurt at all. Tim Bradley thought he was hurt. Tim Bradley, every damn punch. He's hurt. He's hurt, Dre. He's hurt, Dre. Every punch, no matter who's fighting, any punch that lands, the guy's hurt. But other than Tim Bradley, it was pretty clear to see that Taylor was just kind of covering up early on, weathering that storm, and just kind of consistently doing his work. He kind of threw the same amount of punches each round and was just trying to make Ramirez's aggression work against him. You know, that's what I saw anyway.
Yeah, definitely. But I was kind of concerned about Taylor with the card because even though he had the fight in control, I was like, you got to remember where he's at, you know, because those judges, when they're hearing that Ramirez crowd, you don't know what they're going. And one judge gave Ramirez like 4 rounds in a row, like only gave Taylor the one of the last 5. And I was like, whoa, was he trying to? I don't want to say they were making up for it, because if they want to rob somebody, we know judges can rob somebody if they want to. They don't have to work that hard for it anymore. But
yeah, I looked at the score. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I say anything that the judges think they see, if that Ramirez crowd reacted to it, they might say, oh, well, it was a big punch, you know?
Right. I think they did. I mean, they had to fight a draw, dude. That's not, I mean, you know, if one or two of those swing rounds could go either way, but when you're giving all the swing rounds to one guy, I don't know, man. I thought that Ramirez's best round was round 3. And then there was some swing rounds, you know, and he won the later rounds just because Taylor kind of let off the gas a little bit, but Taylor won at least 7 rounds in that fight. So for all 3 judges to have the exact same score, to find a way to score an exact draw, that just looked kind of weird to me, man.
Yeah, no doubt. I had it 115, 111. So I did a second watch at home.
Yeah.
I had like 116, 110 live just in my head. But the fans, like I said, were heavy for Ramirez. But in the championship rounds, man, they were screaming like, Ramirez, you need a knockout. You need a knockout. And when the people were waiting for those scores to be read, when they heard the 114, you know, got quiet. But nobody was mad when Josh Taylor got the decision. So as much as they were for Ramirez, man, they recognized that Taylor won that fight, which was cool because, you know, everybody was appreciative of the efforts out there.
Yeah, I appreciate good fans like that understand what they just saw and respect the game, you know, and when they see their guy lose, they own it, you know. Some fans are just going to boo no matter what, but it seemed like everyone in the house Saturday night seemed to be cool. I just think of a recent time. Remember when Mo Hooker broke his hand and I think he was fighting Ortiz and like people were booing him. And I'm like, what are you motherfuckers booing? He got up from a knockdown. He fought back. He injured himself. Why are you booing this guy? So there was an example of fans just being dicks, but it seemed like Saturday, everybody there was positive and it was a good environment.
Yeah. Now, I don't know how the Zepeda fight looked on TV, but in person, man, it looked like he was worse for the wear from that Baranchik fight.
I believe it. That was a rough fight, man. That was a really rough fight.
Yeah, when I was just telling my girl when we were watching it, I was like, no matter what Lundy does, Lundy's never been, he knows what the deal is. He's not going to be given the fight. He came in here to give rounds, like you said, but it never works out for Hank. He gives all his effort, but he's kind of like Mauricio Herrera that way.
Yeah, he kind of is like an East Coast Mauricio Herrera. He's going to go in there and give you rounds, and for Zepeda, that's kind of what he needed. So that's brilliant matchmaking from Top Rank, because that's the first fight Zepeda's had in a while where he didn't like take an ass whooping in a way, win, lose, or draw. You know what I'm saying? So that was good for him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep. And last thing here about I was in there. I was in Vegas, of course, when they announced the Manny Spence fight, and I know people are talking about the Taylor Crawford matchup. And my first thought was how pissed Bud might be that he wouldn't take any fights that Bob tried to set up at this point anymore, even if it was a Taylor. Do you think any fight could come into that for Bud, as far as working with Top Rank in the future at all?
Honestly, man, it's hard to like read Bud, because he's very monotone, and his with media, he's just very, I don't know what the right word is. Abrasive is one word, but he's just, it's hard. It's difficult to read him. And for what I can gather, he's happy enough with Top Rank because they pay him his minimum, guarantee. They've always taken care of that, even when they've taken losses. And he just seems to be good with it right now where he's at. Pacquiao didn't want to fight him when Pac was with Top Rank. Remember? There was, because Grandpa Bob wanted to do that for a brand building fight. I mean, this shit, that probably goes back 6-7 years or something. I don't know how long, but he wanted to do that fight to build Bud's name up back then. And that was all in house. And Manny and his side didn't want it. So now that Manny's fighting Spence, I mean, Bud's got to be looking at that like, what the fuck? But PBC's paying Pacquiao a lot of money. He's going to get a lot of money from this pay-per-view fight, and that's why he's doing it at this stage. I mean, that's why he was brought over there to PBC. For Bud, I don't know, dude. Maybe he can fight Porter, but they're going to have to overpay Porter to make that fight happen, and then they're going to have to put that on ESPN pay-per-view. Does that do 200,000 buys? I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know, man.
Yeah, I would love to see Manny fight live. I never have, but that ticket will be high. And I just don't, all-time great fighter versus a young great fighter, but I don't know if it's going to provide that great action. It might be like Spence versus Garcia, where Manny has to go into a shell just to get to the 12th, and survive.
I think the difference between Manny and Mikey is Manny's been fighting bigger guys for longer, and he is more explosive. He is faster. He's just better than Mikey at everything, even right now. So it'll be entertaining for 3 or 4 rounds, but I'm with you, man. The second half of that fight, it's probably going to be Manny just kind of going through the motions and just surviving, Yep.
Yeah. I'll let one more thing before I let you go is that I know you're going to do the previews. Before I left Vegas, I put money on Nonito, man, for this fight this weekend because they have him as a 2-1 underdog against Oubaali. And I was surprised at that. I don't know how you feel about that matchup, but I think Oubaali's best match was what? They both fought last on that Nonito Donaire card, right? When he fought Inoue's brother. Yeah. I don't know who he fought besides that, but Donaire's seen everything, man, and been in tough, and he's rested, right? About 2 years, but he should be fresh again.
Yeah, the only thing I would say is I'm looking is when he fought Rigondeaux. Rigondeaux is a southpaw, 5'4", 67-inch reach. That's kind of the same size as Oubaali, and he's a southpaw. Now, I'm not comparing Oubaali to Rigondeaux. Obviously, Rigondeaux is a better fighter. Right. But Rigo gave Nonito, a prime Nonito, fits. And I think that's what the odds makers are looking at. They're looking at, because Oubaali is a southpaw, kind of compact build and everything too. But I'm with you. He did fight in 2 Olympics. He fought in the World Series of Boxing. So he's faced high-level amateur opposition. But in the pros, I'm with you, man. Nonito has seen it all. If you put some money on Nonito, that's not a bad bet, especially at 2-1 odds. Not a bad bet.
Yeah, exactly. Felt like that with Taylor. Both of them, I just don't bet against them. you know. But
Yeah.
I wanted to let you know how it was out there, man. It was still funny, still fun. And Vegas is open, man. The only people wearing masks are the people in the restaurants. They're ready to go. And
Okay.
I don't know, man. Maybe me and you can hook up at a Vegas fight at some point, hopefully.
Yeah, man. Hopefully, I would say probably looking like the fourth quarter of this year. But I got a lot of things going on right now over the summer. But yeah, toward the second half of this year, I'm definitely going to get out there and cover some of those fights. So we'll definitely do that, brother. We'll have some beers.
All right, man.
All right,
man. Take it easy.
You too, man. I love getting the report from the location. That's awesome, because we had CJ calling in last week. He lives out there, and then we had John just calling in. So I love getting the reports from those of you who are out there. You know what I'm saying? Okay, we got a couple more calls, guys, and then I'll finally get to this preview. I promise. We're almost at 2 hours. So these next two calls got to be short. All right, and these are the last two, and they got to be short, guys. We got to keep. So let's see. This is a UK call. You're on the line. We got to keep it short. What's up?
Hello, Mike. It's Hamid. I've been waiting for a long time, so I'll try and keep it short. How's it going?
Good, man. Good. Yeah. We got to run through this, man. We're almost at 2 hours.
Yeah, I was gonna say regarding the Pacquiao Spence fight. I know I've seen a lot of people saying that Spence needs to dominate in this and that, but I made a comparison, and I think this is a good point. I don't know if you agree. When Anthony Joshua, I know there's a bit of a difference, so don't get me wrong. It's not exactly the same thing. When he fought Vladimir Klitschko was 41, coming off a 16-17 month layoff and a loss. At least when Spence is fighting Pacquiao, I know it's almost 2 years and it's a bit longer. He is coming off a win, a pretty impressive win. And he is a top welterweight. When Joshua fought Klitschko, I know he had less fights and this and that, but he was still a champion or belt holder. He wasn't a league champion, but he was a belt holder. And he went life and death with Klitschko. Now, I know it's a bit different, as apples and pears or whatever you could say, but I'm not sure. If Spence gets dropped and it's a life and death, that situation, yeah, I could understand the criticism. But if it's a competitive fight and say he drops Pacquiao, but Pacquiao has his moments, and it's a competitive sort of close fight, but gets the win, I don't know if there's much to criticize Spence, because I think this is, to me, it sounds like a marketing tool for negotiations. And after this fight, I think they just want to, if they want to fight Crawford, I think they just want to let Crawford and other fighters know that they're going to be the guys demanding the more percentage. And that's what I think is to get a marquee name on his resume. I'm not sure what you think about that.
I mean, I understand the comparison. I figured that's where you were going to go. The only thing I would say is heavyweights age much slower than little guys. And, Pacquiao started at 108 or something like that. And he's been fighting guys that are naturally bigger than him for over a decade now. I mean, Pacquiao is really a natural lightweight that bulks up and eats thousands of calories a day to fight at the weight he fights at. He doesn't really have to cut weight to get on the scales. He kind of weighs in just to be a welterweight, So there's a little bit of a difference there with Klitschko. He was fighting a younger, stronger guy and everything like that in his physical prime, coming off a layoff, coming off a loss, all those things. And AJ got a lot of credit for that fight, but AJ was younger than Spence is right now. Spence is a unified world title holder. I want to say he's 30 years old. He's been a pro longer than Joshua had been a pro when he fought Klitschko. And Klitschko, again, heavyweight, a little bit closer. I mean, he was definitely past his prime and everything, but Pacquiao's been knocked out brutally. Klitschko had been stopped, but he had never been brutally knocked out. Klitschko never was knocked out. He always beat the 10 count, right? He was never cleanly knocked out like Pacquiao and stuff. So I think there are differences here, but ultimately, I agree with you. This is brand building. This is negotiating. This is get everybody paid and go into the Crawford negotiations possibly next year saying we get 70, 75, you get 25, something like that.
Yeah, Pacquiao got knocked out, but he came back. I think even Steve Kim was saying he was there at that fight. And I agree. I along with probably many people, and they watched that fight live on HBO against Marquez, thought that was the end, but he came back. And I know he hasn't beaten the greatest of competition, but he had some very impressive wins and performances.
Yeah. Look, man,
He's a favorite
Pacquiao and
fight.
Spence is a good fight. I'm not saying it's a shit fight.
Yeah.
This isn't Mayweather, Logan Paul. It's a good fight. It's not the fight that we want. It's not the best fight that could be made. It's not the best fight for boxing. But in terms of brand building and everything, what they're doing over there with Spence, I get it. It's just, how many of these do we need? You know, Spence went over and fought Kell Brook and got the title. And then everything after that has been a brand building or a layup. It's been the Mikey Garcia fight, which was, you know, Mikey was the A side in that fight. It's been the Danny Garcia fight. It's been the Sean Porter fight. It's some of these they're good matchups. The first Garcia fight was shit, but the fight with Porter was a good fight. So after this, dude, no more excuses. After this, you gotta fight Crawford. Like, that's it.
That's what I said. But the way I look at it, Crawford was gonna fight Pacquiao, and Pacquiao, if he's still gonna be active, at least he gotta fight the top two guys or one of the top two guys. Now I'm not holding it to him. If he does well and he pulls this off, or even if it's competitive and goes 12 rounds, that just adds to his legacy. But Crawford is going to fight him, and that fight out through. Spence is going to fight him. I just hope after this, I agree, Spence fight happens. I personally think he may be dead. I'd rather see this than Spence and Ugas. And I know Crawford looks like might not fight Porter, but if he was to fight Porter, those two fights wouldn't be too bad. But going back to, I missed the beginning. I was just going to say, I don't know what you think about the referees in Vegas or the judges, but I think, I just personally think they need to get some new judges. Like the referee, Bayless, is this not the first time? He gets way too involved in fights. He did it with the Tyson Fury and Wilder fight and some of those Mayweather fights. And a lot of these guys, like Tony Weeks in the rematch between Kovalev and Wood, they're way too involved, I think, into the action. I know Robert Byrd was going to be old, but he was also criticized. But I thought in the first Wood fight, he did okay. He could have done a bit better. He's a bit slow, but since then, a lot of these referees, I think, either they aged or I think they're way too involved or they're showing a bit of bias towards one fight or the other.
Ahmed, I agree with you. I've been saying that for years. The problem is no one else in the media talks about it. I mean, nobody else brings this up. Nobody asks hard questions. I've been at press events where I bumped into referees and I've asked them, when do you think you might want to retire? You know, you've been doing this for a while. Like, I've asked those questions and I've done it in a polite way, but I've brought that stuff up and people look at me like I'm crazy, but no one else does it because what a lot of people don't know is Nevada, the commission people, the sanctioning organizations, the promoters, they'll put on media lunches and they'll put on functions and stuff where people get to hang out and pat themselves on the back and eat good food and do all this. People like having access to that stuff. I went to a few of those things in LA. I've been to some of them in New York. And after a while, I just started to feel like, you know what, man, I'm becoming part of this system and I don't like it. And I stopped going to that stuff and they stopped inviting me. A lot of them just stopped inviting me. But people don't want to lose access to that stuff, Hamed.
Yeah, regarding that, I was just thinking, I've seen guys like Jack Reese, Steve Smoger. A lot of these guys are available for interviews. A lot of those officials in Vegas, especially, it reminds me a bit like the Premier League, where I think the head is he's bad. Like some of the referees that come on to in the Premier League are really bad, but like guys like Jack Reese, I've seen him on numerous podcasts and YouTube.
I love Jack
doing interviews.
That's one of the things I love about Jack.
These guys, I love these guys like Bayless. You don't hear or see like Tony Weeks, Bayless.
None of the Vegas people do.
Like Adelaide,
none of them do. That's part of how they operate. And that's why I say they operate like a teachers union here in the United States or like a police union on steroids. And the problem, unions do great work. Okay. I don't want to bash unions, but the problem, and at least this is more of a United States thing. I don't want to get too political, but these teachers unions, these police unions, they protect bad teachers, bad cops. And you see, teachers that suck being protected and cops that suck and abuse people being protected. You see this all the time. And that's kind of how NSAC operates. Look at the Birds. It's not just Adelaide. It's also Robert Byrd. They get protected. But Hamed, I gotta get running, man. We're almost at 2 hours, bro.
That's all right. I was going to say, do you think before I go, do you think the ones on New York are better? Because guys like Steve Smoga and a lot of those
I
other
like the
referees,
refs in New York
I think
better.
they do.
I like the refs there better,
Yeah.
but that state and the commission, there I have concerns there, and they have made awful calls in terms of their medical procedures. They've gotten better, but Magomed Abdusalamov, look up that case and how New York handled that.
Golovkin and that was on the undercard of Golovkin and Curtis. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, before I go, I just want to say, regarding the fight, Ramirez, Tina, I thought you could argue Ramirez won maybe five rounds. I had about 7-5. I think you want to stretch to 6, but I think Top Rank, they wanted Ramirez to win. But I think Taylor clearly won. I had Ramirez win in the early rounds, about 3-1 after 4, but then from there on in, you could argue it was all Taylor. I think you could go as far as saying he won about 7, 8 rounds clearly in that fight.
I think so too.
I don't know about Crawford. I think he gets hit a bit too much, and you won't have. This is what people forget. I was at the Prograis fight. I thought Prograis was too small for him, and Taylor was too big. At welterweight, you won't have the advantage over a guy like Crawford. I know Crawford is not the biggest, but Crawford is a natural welterweight now. He's filled into it. I think maybe a fight between Teofimo Lopez and Josh Taylor may be a bit more intriguing. I don't know what you think about that, but that's the thing, Marco.
I think it's more intriguing just because they're two young guys with less than 20 fights that have completely unified their division. So you'd have the top guy, you'd have the undisputed champ at 35, the undisputed champ at 40 fighting each other. So that to me would make it the most intriguing fight for me as a diehard in the entire sport. But I gotta let you go, Ahmed. I gotta get to one more call, man.
Good.
All right, thanks a lot.
All right, good show. I would like to.
You too. Okay, we're gonna get to one more call here. John Uden said, I'm a fan of Jack Reese, Harvey Dock, Thomas Taylor, Michael Griffin. I like Harvey Dock a lot. He might be the best young ref in all of boxing. And I like Thomas Taylor does a good job too. He does a pretty good job too. Harvey's more East Coast. Tom is more West Coast. I like Jack. Jack is heavily involved in that California commission. And that's the best commission in the country for boxing. So we're going to take one last call, guys. And then we're out. 972, you're on the chat. What's up?
Hey, how you doing, Chad? I was calling from Texas, man. I was going to speak on that Errol Spence fight, man. The word I'm hearing is Earl really didn't even want that fight, but at the end of the day, who would name a fighter at 147 that would say no to a Pacquiao fight?
Yeah, it's a good point. I mean,
nobody's going to turn that fight down.
Yeah, I mean, as far as money goes and the name recognition, it's a big fight. Yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah, he didn't have any interest in that fight. But at the same time, nobody's saying no to Pacquiao. It's not going to happen. I mean, so that's as far as that. And I wanted to touch on that Josh Taylor. Very proud of Josh Taylor. I knew he was going to win. I won some good money. I didn't bet in Vegas. I bet on the streets here in Texas.
Nice.
And it was even money bet. And everything is feeling real good today.
Yeah, I bet you are, man.
Yeah. Josh Taylor. Yeah. Hey, Josh got it out the mud. Josh, he went through that Super 6. I knew he was hard. That fight with him and Regis Prograis. After I saw that fight, I knew Josh was true. You know, and as far as him and Crawford, I think he might beat Crawford. I think, to be honest with you, I think his resume is better than Crawford. I think Crawford's top ranked hype train.
Really?
Name a fighter that Crawford's fought that Josh Taylor wouldn't beat. Name a fighter Josh Taylor wouldn't beat Crawford has fought.
That's a really good point, man. I can't disagree with you.
Machine. Hey, Crawford fought Green Machine, and I think Josh Taylor got Green Machine out in the second round.
Did he fight? I don't know if he fought Mean Machine. I know he fought Postol, and Victor Postol might be Terrence Crawford's best win, and Taylor beat him.
I think he fought Green Machine too.
Oh, okay.
I think he fought Green Machine too and knocked him out. I think.
I have to look. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. Nah, because I think
everybody on his.
Go ahead.
Yeah, but everybody on his resume, I think Josh Taylor would beat. I think I think it's a closer fight than what people think it is. I honestly think Crawford's a lot of height. If he wasn't, there's no reason he shouldn't have took that Sean Porter fight. I think they're trying to hold all their cards close to get the Spence fight. That's going to be a big payday for Top Rank if he's still at Top Rank. And I don't think he's going to leave Top Rank, to be honest.
I don't think he will either, man.
That's my call.
Yeah, I think he's
I
going.
don't think he will either.
I think he's comfortable in what he's got going on, and he's just going to kind of coast. And that really disappoints me, man, because at one point I was really, really high on Terrence Crawford. But at this point, it just seems like he's cool making his whatever it is, $4 million a fight once or twice a year, stacking that money. And that's the thing. Like that's cool if that's what you want to do. That's fine. It's his prerogative. It's his life. But I think he has the potential to be a special fighter, but at some point you got to fight top guys, and he hasn't been able to. So, yeah, man, I agree with you.
Yeah, hey, look, I'm gonna say one last thing, and I'm gonna get off here.
Okay.
I enjoyed the show. Look, man, when it comes to Spence, I'm Dallas, Texas, of course, home team speaking. Believe me when I tell you this right here. This guy loves to bump. He don't care how big you are, how tall you are, how small you are. He loves to fight. And will fight anybody at any time and anywhere. That's his character, this guy. So all this talk about Spence avoiding, he ain't ducking no fight.
I don't think Spence is. I think Spence's management is. Spence ain't afraid of nobody. I never thought that. But his management is trying to play business. They're just, they're doing boxing business 101.
Oh, yeah. He been begging for Crawford. Anyway, I'm going to let that go. Man, y'all have a good show. Really enjoyed it. I'm going to sit back and listen to what y'all talking about.
All right, brother. Thanks for calling in, man.
All right.
All right. I see one more call. I just can't say no. I'm going to take this last call, then we're going to go. All right. One more call, even though you called in at the end and I told you not to. All right. We got another UK call. You got to make it quick, my man.
Hi, Mike.
Hello.
Hi, Mike. Can you hear me?
I can. Who is this?
Sorry, I've got a kid's voice, but I'm a bit older. My name is Zach. I've been talking to you on Twitter.
Oh, yeah. Okay. What's up, Zach? How you doing, man?
Yeah. I'm good. How are you? I just want to say I've been watching your show for quite a long time now. So, yeah, it's been really good. Just reading off the Taylor fight, Taylor Ramirez fight. It was kind of... was a bit under the ground in the UK. We didn't have a broadcaster, but it was a great fight. Yeah, I know.
How did you watch it, Zach? Sorry to interrupt, but I'm just curious. Did you watch it on Fight TV, or how did you see it?
I watched it on Fight TV.
Okay.
Yeah, so it was a good fight. It was. I love the way how Ramirez kind of pushed the action at the start, and then Taylor kind of got into his groove kind of mid-rounds and kind of started counter-punching him and getting him on target, etc. So, and then Ramirez came back towards the end as well. So, yeah, really good fight. I suppose I've been watching Taylor since the O'Hara Davis fight. And to be honest, I've just seen him go from strength to strength. And him versus Crawford is going to be a very good fight with Crawford being a switch hitter, and both can fight in southpaw, and in terms of weight, there's not much in it, so that's going to be good. But what I wanted to ask you, Mike, was looking at this Tyson Fury and AJ fight kind of falling out. I find it a bit suspect how quickly this trilogy fight kind of made up quite quickly. How Top Rank and Bob said to Eddie not to worry about the arbitration case, and then suddenly we're talking about the trilogy really quick. I find that really fishy.
Yeah, and Zach, they had the Allegiant Stadium booked, I think it was, I don't quote me on the date, but I think it's July 24th, and then they have a date in August. So they had it booked on 2 separate dates this summer, maybe August 24, something like that. And to me, it is very suspicious. I mean, now that the ball's kind of dropped and we've seen like all the information, it makes me wonder if Grandpa Bob was just trying to mess with Eddie and this whole thing. I wouldn't put it past him because he really seems to have a hard on for Eddie Hearn. I don't know why, but it does look weird, man. It really looks weird.
Yeah. When I look at Bob's interviews, it feels like he's like the American version of Frank Warren, and they don't like Eddie being around them at all.
Yeah, I completely agree. He does, and I honestly, I think it's because Eddie Hearn's doing such a good job, and I think Grandpa Bob feels a little threatened by him, because Top Rank's been crushing it in America for years, for decades. He's been the top promoter, and right now, what Eddie Hearn is doing globally is pretty impressive. And I just think that there's just good old fashioned jealousy or something going on. I can't describe it, man. I'm not sure, but it's definitely odd.
Yeah. And it seems like with Eddie, kind of co-promoting Canelo, it seems like that's shaking up the American scene as well.
Yeah, I mean, Eddie co-promoting Canelo, and I think Canelo's very happy. You see his personality coming out and everything. And I just think that what Eddie's doing, he's building up the American matchroom boxing, but then he's going to Uzbekistan. He went to Italy. He's going to all these different countries. So he's really doing a global thing. And, no other promoter's been doing that. I mean, Top Rank took global talent and brought it all to the United States. They were the first to go into Latin America. They were the first to go to Asia, Eastern Europe. But now what Eddie's doing is he's bringing the shows to those parts of the world, and no one's done that before. So it's pretty impressive. It really is.
And just a final question. Where do you think Crawford should go from now? Because I just feel like, I know we've been talking about this, but I just feel like he's going nowhere now.
Honestly, I really don't know. I don't know who there is for him to fight. Sean Porter's a name that gets brought up. Perhaps Sean Porter. Now, if Josh Taylor does move up in weight, that's an obvious fight because they're both with Top Rank. And that would be on ESPN. I think that'd be a pretty good fight because Crawford has a name, and now Taylor has built up a name off of this last win. But then there's Teofimo Lopez, and maybe I'd rather see a fight between Lopez and Taylor first. So I really don't know, man. Crawford is just kind of he's just standing there with his dick in his hand. I don't know how else to put it, man. That's just where he's at. So yeah.
Yeah, but honestly, as a long-term kind of Bud fan, I honestly feel like he should move the. It just seems right to move to PBC where they've got all the welterweights stacked up there, and they can make that Spence fight in-house. It just makes sense for me. I don't understand why I don't understand why. It might be contractually, he might not be able to, but especially when Bob was kind of criticizing him not long ago as well in the media as well in terms of how much pay he wanted. So I don't know why he can't just make that move to Al Heyman and PBC.
I know right now he's under contract with Top Rank, and as far as I know, that contract is solid, and it's going to go on for at least a couple more years. So he's not going to PBC anytime soon. So it is what it is.
Nice talking to you, Mike. That was the first time. So yeah.
Yeah, thanks for calling in, man. It's good to have you on the show, brother.
Cheers, thanks, Mike. Cheers, bye.
All right. There he goes. All right, guys. Woof, what a show. Marathon session. Oh, man. I earned my money today. Over 2 hours of TNC for you guys. All right. Great show, man. Some great calls, guys. We'll do it again next Monday. Have a great week. I'll see you at the fights.